right, guys, this is it. We're gonna walk through the build sheet for RM16, our 1970 Camaro, this absolutely beautiful car that's sitting here next to us. This thing is fully customized, modernized, and restored. It's a beautiful car. There's a ton of little details to go through. So I've got our master mechanic, Chris, here. We're gonna run through this thing from tip to tail, touch every little detail on it. And let's start under the hood. We've got an LS. What do we have under the hood?
So this is an LS1.
The classic.
Yep, the legend right here. So this thing's been upgraded with a lot of neat stuff. This has FiTech's brand new EFI system for an LS, and this is actually using like a 4-barrel type manifold for that classic look. This has been upgraded with an all-American billet drive system in the front. We got a cold air intake, headers. I mean, the list goes on and on. The plumbing and wiring's all real nice on this. Cooling system's all upgraded. So this thing's ready to rip as far as the engine goes.
So we got the classic LS1 underneath the hood. Now, how big is this engine?
So this is a 5.7 liter, which is about 350 cubic inches. This is the engine that kind of started all as far as LS swap the world stuff. So a lot of history behind the LS1, and it runs great. It feels really good in this car. It feels like you're driving a new Camaro.
Is that an aluminum or what is that?
Yeah, this one's an all aluminum block, so the weight is really good on it, and in this lighter, smaller car, this thing handles like it's on rails, and a lot of that's due to taking a lot of weight off the front end from the old iron block.
When in doubt, LS swap all the things, right?
That's it, that's it. So a lot of other upgrades under here, a lot of custom work. Shout out to Elevated Design. Steven did a lot of the really neat tricks on this. The inner fender panels are all smoothed out. We've got some Eddie Motorsports billet hood hinges on there. We took care of everything top to bottom on the engine with this, so you get a nice, reliable, fuel-injected LS1.
So I love how they tucked everything in here. The firewall looks like it's shaved back there, even though it's not painted. It's kind of like a flat black, which really highlights the LS1 that's underneath the hood here. Big shout out to FiTech for hooking us up with all the goodies. And we are gonna do a dyno video for this thing, get it on the dyno and see exactly what kind of horsepower we're making. Any guess on the horsepower?
I'm guessing 400. It does have a lot of bolt-on upgrades, so I don't think 400 is gonna be a problem.
I think, yeah, I'm guessing around 400 as well. You mentioned the custom radiator to keep all these parts cool. And that's pretty much it for under the hood. While you're looking at the engine bay, you can also see all the extra cosmetic touches that were done to this car. And everything, it just really gives it a modern look, like these LED lights, this mesh grille, the little carbon fiber touches that are kind of subtle, like the front spoiler. It's obviously a second-gen Camaro, so it's got that split bumper, which is a classic. Actually, the first split bumper we've done at RestoMods.
Yeah, we've actually never done a second-gen Camaro, so I'm excited. This one's really cool.
Yeah, and it's a great example of a second-gen. If we were going to do any of them, I think this might be my favorite one I've ever seen.
Yeah, like you said, the real modern touches, a lot of handmade parts, just to tie in all the look with this kind of more modern color. Let's talk about the color. We get a lot of questions about the paint on this car because it's such a unique color.
Yeah, I mean, it's a color you won't see. I mean, the whole car is a really unique car. You're not gonna see another one on the road or at a show like it. It is a split bumper. You're gonna see other split bumper second-gen Camaros. You're never gonna see one like this with the stance and the paint. That paint, I believe, is a Jeep color.
Yeah, Anvil Gray off of a Jeep.
Anvil Gray off of a Jeep, so that's kind of a weird color to put on a Chevy, as you would say. But I really like it. I think it works really well on this car, and with the black and carbon fiber touches, I think the color scheme on this car is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, no chrome at all, solid color, no metallic in it or anything, so really modernizes the whole car.
So that takes care of under the hood, and kind of continuing the theme of the gray and black is the wheel and tire setup, which I think absolutely complements this car beautifully. What do we got going on here?
Yeah, so these are Savini black wheels. These are in 19-inch, which is a real modern size, which lets you get some real modern performance tires on there. So this has 245 wide front tires and 275 wide rear tires, which helps put this power to the ground and keeps this car stable in the corners.
Yeah, driving this car is like driving a modern car, and a lot of that has to do with the suspension parts that are underneath it. We're gonna throw it up on the rack, and we're gonna talk more about the suspension and the rear end that's in this car, so stay tuned for that part of the video, because that all lends to the overall drivability of this thing. Let's cruise around the back and see what's going on back here. So obviously the signature line of this car, continuing towards the rear end right here. I love the way they've redone this rear tray back here and sat these speakers in. This is a full custom enclosure, right?
Yeah, everything on the interior is custom. We'll talk more about that, but exterior wise, This car was the first time that an American company started to do some European influence on the car. So you'll notice it's a little bit smaller than a first-gen Camaro. It's lower, it's wider. So that all kind of lends itself to the modern look that this particular car has. Some of the accents that play onto that are the color-matched bumper, the spoiler. This is an original RS style spoiler. Custom-made LED taillights, blacked-out center panel. Everything kind of just ties in. Like we said, no chrome polished anything on this car. Just a nice finished modern look.
Not too much to talk about in the trunk. It's fully finished with a trunk kit, leather and carpet. Just beautiful if you need to stash some groceries in there.
A lot of cool stuff in the trunk. You just don't see it because it's so nicely hidden and integrated. The battery's actually back here with a cutoff switch. All the amplifiers and a subwoofer for the stereo system is back here. So all nicely finished out with the interior trim panels, but still a lot of cool stuff hidden back here.
Yeah, kind of carries through the theme of the rest of the car, just really nicely finished. Everything looks and works great. Moving on to the interior of RM16, this 1970 Camaro. This interior is really unlike any other classic car I've seen in that you hop in and it looks and feels and operates like a completely modern car. All the touches from the modern power seats to the modern gauges, to everything billet. Everything you touch is billet. It's got a wireless phone charger in the center console. It's got the AC controls really nicely integrated right underneath that touchscreen stereo. It really feels like a modern car. Why don't you walk us through all the parts that are in this interior?
Yeah, so a lot of that modern feel is due to the fact that every single thing is custom in here. Like we stated before, Elevated Designs does real high-end upholstery work, and it shows in this interior. The entire dash is all custom handmade. It's all wrapped in matching leather and suede. It's got modern upgraded power buckets. So all the modern features in the buckets. The console flows really nice from that custom dash down. You got a cup holder, a wireless charge port, and the AC controls, the stereo, it's all integrated real nice. You have small little carbon fiber treatment throughout that kind of ties in with some of the other carbon on the car. But the interior just speaks for itself. It's really beautiful, and there's a lot of custom touches. It's got a push button start, custom gauges. All the buttons are blacked out to give it that modern feel. And of course, the 6-speed shifter from Hurst. That really kind of is the only kind of classic car ode. And it's nice because you get that feel for a Hurst shifter in there, which any muscle car lover is gonna love a Hurst.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're banging through the gears on this thing, you have that classic feel. It's still very much a muscle car, but you're sitting there in full comfort. Your hands are gripping an Alcantara performance steering wheel. You got AC blowing in your face. You got Bluetooth to your phone. You're bumping your tunes. It is an incredibly comfortable yet performance ride.
It's definitely easy to get in this car, rack up a few miles, and you almost forget you're in a 1970 vehicle. So I like that.
What else we got to talk about? Let's put it up in the rack and let's look at suspension and rear end. All right, so as promised, we've got her up in the rack now, and we're looking at some of these suspension parts that make this car ride so well. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so to start off with, the second-gen Camaro had kind of a revised subframe from the first ones, and the geometry is a lot better. So these cars, right out the gate when they're stock even, they handle pretty decent for a muscle car, but that wasn't enough for a car of this caliber. So this car got a full RideTech strong arm upper and lower kit with RideTech's adjustable coilovers. So you can vary the ride height with these. These are great shocks. You can really feel it. It rides like a new car. And then building off of that, this car has dropped spindles that are machined to accept Corvette C5 brakes. So
hold on, so for a layperson like me, what is a drop spindle?
So this actually just moves the center line of the wheel up, and that will effectively lower the car, so you get that killer stance you want.
Right, and this thing does have a great stance, so all of that combines to be able to put that stance wherever you want it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And steering, this has a quick ratio box, so you get the real good steering feedback when you're driving this car. So all these parts work together really well, and just a big upgrade from stock on this car.
Yeah, absolutely. All this goes into what we call drivability, and jumping in this car, hitting that push button start, ripping through those 6 gears, it really feels like a modern car. So it's cool to be under here and looking at all the parts that make that happen.
Yep, not enough to just look like it handles well. This thing really does handle well.
Let's check out the back.
Okay, so we looked at the front. Now we're gonna get into what's going on in the rear. There's some even bigger changes to the rear of this car. Got rid of the leaf springs. So these cars stock have leaf springs. This now has more ride tech goodies. This is a 4-link from them with adjustable upper hind arms. And of course, their coilovers again. These Fox shocks are really nice. Hyperco springs, fully adjustable ride height. You can set your pinion angle. So depending on what you're doing with this car, you can really dial in the handling with this suspension setup. And you'll see in the rear end, this has an original GM 12 bolt, which is a pretty good rear end, but it needs a little bit of service, and we want a posi, which this unit is not.
Nobody wants a one-wheel peel.
Nope, not with this car. So we reached out to our good friends at Curry Enterprises, and they got us a really nice 9-inch rear end that we're gonna be able to bolt all these ride tech brackets back to, weld some tabs on it, and we'll have a real strong Ford 9-inch. They're basically indestructible, very easy to service, a lot of parts available, just a legendary rear end that you see in a lot of upgraded high horsepower cars, nice cars.
So 2 dumb questions. When you say 4-link, is that because it's mounted to 4 positions here?
Yep, that's it. So you'll see these are the links that attach, the rear end to the car, and there's 4 of them. So those links are actually triangulated on this car. You'll see the upper link is at a different angle than the lower link, and that helps keep the axle from moving side to side. When you're cornering and when you're taking, an off-ramp or whatever the case, that really centers the car. And one of the other advantages to the 4-link is that it doesn't bind in its range of travel. So you're not getting weird changes in pinion angle and other things that affect the handling. This thing is smooth as butter when you're driving it down the road. It soaks up all the bumps, but when you get into a corner, it really feels positive and planted. So.
Yeah, absolutely. This thing rips in and out of corners, which is great. The other thing that you said that sounded a little bit like blasphemy is a Ford 9-inch rear end, and this right here, my friend, is a Chevy.
Yeah, that's it, man. So, that's what you see a lot. You'll see a lot of early Fords with a Chevy power plant, and you'll see a lot of Chevys with a Ford 9-inch rear end. So at this point, everything on the Curry housing that we got and the center section, it's all aftermarket. So not a single original Ford part on it, but based on that legendary Ford 9-inch architecture that you see in so many different forms of racing, it's proven, it's reliable, it's strong, so that'll be a good upgrade for this car.
Yeah, and one other thing we can see back here is this brand new fuel tank. Where did this come from?
Yep, shout out to our boys at FiTech. Once again, coming through. This is a brand new tank from them with an in-tank pump for their fuel injection unit that we got up front.
And that's just all about getting enough fuel into that power plant, right?
Yeah, exactly. We always like to go with an in-tank pump. You can get away with an external pump. In-tank pump has a lot of advantages. The pump stays cool down there. It doesn't starve. It's not being gravity fed. So whenever you can do an in-tank pump, we recommend it.
Very cool. So that wraps up the underside of this car and the suspension. What about the brake setup? Because I'm looking at those and we've got a good view of them right now. We might as well talk about those.
Yeah, definitely. So like we spoke about in the front, it has C5 Corvette brakes up front. And in the back, we have some drilled rotors and GM style calipers as well, so that we have 4-wheel disc brakes all around, just to bring the stopping up to that modern specifications.
Yeah, if you can go fast, you got to stop fast, right?
That's it.
Absolutely. So that's it for the build sheet on RM16, our 1970 Camaro. If you guys have any questions, any other things, drop them into the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that bell. We're putting out content every week. We're constantly talking about this build and all the other builds that we've got going on. And of course, if you want to win this car,
head over to RestoMods.com, buy some merch, buy some gear, get your entries, and you can be behind the wheel.
That was pretty smooth.